Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through today's topic because we are looking at one of the most profound, literal game changers in the history of modern medicine. You see, for centuries, treating internal ailments meant one thing: making a massive surgical incision. But today, that paradigm has entirely shifted. Okay, let's dive into this and explore the evolution of modern surgery and the totally fascinating world of laparoscopy.
Just think about that for a second. How exactly do surgeons navigate complex internal anatomy, remove diseased organs, and stitch tissues back together, all without making a large opening? I mean, how are these massive internal problems fixed through tiny, precise little keyholes? It seems almost like magic, right? But as we'll see, it is the result of incredible technological advancement combined with extreme surgical skill.
So here is the cognitive roadmap for our explainer today. We'll hit the principles of surgical technique, the minimal access revolution, common laparoscopic procedures, the benefits over open laparotomy, and finally, surgical risks and complications.
All right, part 1, principles of surgical technique.
Let's start right at the bedrock of surgical practice. Because before we can really understand the high-tech modern operating room, we have to understand the historical foundation of all procedures. These are known as Halsted's principles, and they are the absolute non-negotiables. Introduced way back in the late 19th century by William Stewart Halsted at Johns Hopkins Hospital, these tenets dictate exactly how human tissue must be treated. Notice the emphasis here: gentle handling, meticulous hemostasis, which is really just a fancy way of saying keeping the bleeding completely under control, strict aseptic technique to stop infection, and ensuring there's minimum tension on tissues when closing wounds. Honestly, whether a surgeon is making a foot-long incision or a millimeter-wide keyhole, these principles are the biological laws they absolutely must obey to ensure a patient heals properly. Moving right along to Section 2, the minimal access revolution.
So we have our foundation. Let's move to and see how this builds into the modern era. This brings us to laparoscopy. Interestingly enough, this minimally invasive technique was actually first heavily developed within gynecology. It utilizes a laparoscope, which you can think of as a specialized high-tech instrument equipped with a light and a camera for looking directly into the body, passed through very small incisions. Rather than cutting the abdomen wide open, surgeons insert this camera and specialized long-handled instruments to perform both diagnostic checks and incredibly complex surgical procedures.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the profound difference in the sensory experience for the surgeon. In traditional open surgery or laparotomy, the surgeon gets a direct 3D view and can physically palpate or touch the organs to feel for abnormalities like tumors. Laparoscopy completely alters this. The surgeon suddenly has to rely on a two-dimensional visual representation on a screen that might be across the room. There is no direct palpation, and the whole surgical approach actually alters the normal appearance of familiar anatomy. It demands a totally different, highly specialized skill set to translate what you see on a flat 2D screen into precise 3D movements inside the human body. Which brings us to Section 3, common laparoscopic procedures. Because of these specialized tools, this minimal access technology has spread like wildfire across practically all surgical specialties. Basically, the rule of thumb is almost whatever can be done by a massive open surgery can now be done with a laparoscope. In upper gastrointestinal surgery, we see laparoscopic cholecystectomies to remove diseased gallbladders and Nissen fundoplications to treat severe acid reflux. In general and colorectal surgery, everyday emergencies like an appendicectomy or elective hernia repairs are routinely done through these tiny keyholes. It's also an incredibly powerful diagnostic tool, especially for pelvic conditions, allowing doctors to visualize ovarian cysts or ectopic tubal pregnancies without putting the patient through the trauma of major open surgery.
Okay, Part 4, benefits over open laparotomy.
You might be wondering, why go through all the trouble of relearning surgical anatomy on a flat monitor? Well, let's shift our focus to the patient experience. The immediate postoperative benefits are absolutely massive. Because the abdominal wall isn't being sliced wide open, patients simply feel better sooner. They experience drastically less postoperative pain, which naturally reduces the need for heavy pain medications. They return to normal activities, including driving and manual work, much earlier. And crucially, smaller incisions mean far fewer wound-related infections, and a much lower chance of developing incisional hernias down the line. Honestly, if you or a loved one ever needs surgery, these are the techniques that will get you back to your normal life weeks faster.
But you know, it's not just the tools that ensure a fast recovery, it's the whole shebang, how the patient is managed around the surgery itself. This is brilliantly captured by the ERAS protocol, or Enhanced Recovery After Surgery.
This protocol proves that active patient engagement directly enhances the physical benefits of those smaller incisions. It starts preoperatively with patient education and health optimization, like stopping smoking. Then, medical optimization shifts the traditional fasting guidelines. For instance, giving a patient a 12.5% carbohydrate-loading beverage, kind of like you're prepping for a big race, just 2 hours before surgery to maintain their energy reserves. Finally, postoperative care focuses heavily on the early removal of drains and getting the patient out of bed and walking almost immediately.
Finally, Section 5, Surgical Risks and Complications.
Of course, it's absolutely vital we transition to the sobering realities of surgery. While laparoscopy is fantastic, minimal access definitely does not mean zero risk. So the crucial point here is this 5% statistic. In procedures like a laparoscopic inguinal hernia repair, there is roughly a 5% risk that the surgeon will have to convert the operation into a traditional open procedure. Actually, let's reframe that. This isn't a failure, it's a safety parachute. If visibility is poor, or if unexpected anatomy or bleeding pops up, the surgeon must fall back to an open laparotomy to ensure the patient's safety.
Furthermore, treating acute abdominal emergencies carries significant baseline risks regardless of how you do it. Data published in the East and Central African Journal of Surgery shows an overall pooled complication rate of 19.8% for patients undergoing surgery for an acute abdomen. To put that into perspective, that's roughly 1 in 5 patients experiencing issues like wound infections, anastomosis leakage, or sepsis. Surgery is an immense trauma to the human body, and the stakes are always incredibly high.
And look, laparoscopy introduces its own unique set of complications. Because of that limited 2D field of view and those long, rigid instruments, there's a very real risk of accidental damage to other intra-abdominal organs that might just be slightly off camera. Also, because surgeons cannot physically feel the tissues with their hands, locating tiny colonic lesions prior to cutting can be incredibly difficult, often requiring extensive preoperative imaging just to map things out. There's also a systemic risk. As surgeons perform more and more laparoscopies, their traditional open surgery skills can attenuate. It's a use-it-or-lose-it situation. Finally, because patients are discharged so early nowadays, general practitioners are facing new, honestly terrifying challenges, managing potentially severe post-operative complications in patients who are recovering at home rather than on a well-run surgical ward.
When things do go wrong, we have to look at the professional frameworks governing medical practice, and this brilliantly illustrates the vital difference between an honest, tragic mistake and a completely intentional violation. Medical negligence occurs when an otherwise prudent physician makes an inadvertent error, an act of omission or commission that sadly results in harm. Medical malpraxis, on the other hand, that is intentional behavior that falls way outside the bounds of what is acceptable by a governing body. We're talking about things like performing completely unjustified surgeries just to make a profit.
Malpraxis is often categorized into what's known as the 6 A's, which is a stark reminder of a physician's supreme obligation to practice responsibly. These include association, like employing unqualified persons or covering up for them; advertisement in an unethical, misleading manner; being under the influence of alcohol on duty; adultery, meaning illicit relationships with a patient; performing illegal or unjustified abortions; and addiction. In an era where surgical technology is advancing at literal lightning speed, maintaining absolute professional integrity and a rigorous baseline level of skill is more important than ever before. Which brings us to a final thought I want to leave you with today. We've seen how laparoscopy has completely revolutionized the patient experience, shrinking massive open incisions down to the size of a keyhole. But as our screens get higher in resolution and our robotic and laparoscopic tools become even more advanced, we have to ask, how do we ensure that the surgeon's human skill, their ethical judgment, and their deep responsibility remain the ultimate safeguard in the operating room? Because at the end of the day, technology is only as good as the human hands that wield it. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep wondering, keep learning, and we'll see you next time.